both for free. So I used to bring you some of your stuff. You've probably got better stuff than me.
I haven't got anything at home though.
Oh yeah.
I never really got my own. I did have my own kit in the early days, but I never kept up with it.
Yeah. Turn my chair that way, fix you.
Yeah.
And if you
So where am I looking?
Turn your chair towards me so we're facing each other.
Okay.
We should be. Just have to speak a little bit. Speak up a
Yeah,
little
that
bit.
might be very echoey, you know.
Yeah. I just have to make sure I speak slightly high volume. Let me just double check. Definitely in frame. I can't believe that. I put all my Nike stuff on charge and I was like, get it on charge because I think the battery's low, and then left it at home on charge. So, how long ago was it you started working with me again?
I think it was June.
June, okay.
June.
So, since the summer really, until the end of the year.
7 months.
And what was it that kind of possessed you to sort of reach out to me or decide you wanted to embark on a health and fitness journey and speak to a professional and get professional help?
Because I felt like I don't really quite know how to use the gym properly. I was going to the gym, but I always felt like I didn't necessarily get the best out of the equipment. So that was the first thing. Second thing was I really wanted somebody to give me a kick up the bum.
Yeah.
I wanted to focus more, and I felt like if I had a personal trainer, they would help me use the gym better, more efficiently, and give me a structure that I didn't feel like I had.
And how have you found it working with me over the last seven months or so?
Brilliant.
How have you found it,
Brilliant.
What have you found to be, what have you found it beneficial for? What kind of advantages have you taken from it?
So I was surprised that I kind of had access to you on more than the 1 day a week that we set on, in the sense that there's the app.
Yeah.
And then I would be keeping that app every day about what I'd eaten and what exercise I'd done, and that I had sort of fitness videos that I could follow, and that you were in contact with me about the food that I was eating. I didn't realise it would be quite so all-encompassing. I thought I'd just be coming for an hour a week, and that would be it, and the rest would be left up to me. And that's what I really liked about it, was that I felt like I didn't just walk out of the session and I didn't see you again for a week. I felt like you were a presence, and that felt very supportive.
Yeah, that's good. And what do you feel like you've learned in the last 7 months? Is there anything what would you say are your biggest takeaways? What have you learned maybe inside and or outside of the gym, or about yourself?
So I've learned to be more focused about what I'm eating and how calories work. And I've also learned how to use the gym kit better, and understanding about muscle groupings, I suppose. So things like sort of chest presses, the fact that there's 3 sets of muscles that you're actually working, not just blindly doing something, and also how to push yourself, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that was something we touched upon, wasn't it? Like you said, you weren't 100% sure on what some of the equipment's for, how to kind of put a program together, and then we sort of noticed maybe your intensity could have been a little bit higher, but I think it's just understanding, isn't it, what intensity is, how you gauge that, and how you can push yourself more. And what would you say to anybody who's like considering getting a personal trainer? Is it something you recommend other people do?
Fully.
Yeah.
I think the idea of getting a personal trainer is quite daunting at the beginning, because you sort of think, oh, this is going to be really hard. What I found was that you were incredibly supportive, and also that you always come up with new ways of doing things, and new ways of explaining things, and new ways of using your pin and exercising your body, and just supporting you.
Yeah.
I would say.
And you mentioned about having some reservations. What reservations did you have prior to working with me that maybe made you feel a little bit, or even prior to maybe getting in touch with me, reservations in general about working with a personal trainer?
Well, I suppose the first reservation a lot of people might have is financial.
Yeah.
So you sort of think, is this worth it? Can I
of
afford
course.
it?
Yeah.
And then you realise that it is worth it,
Yeah.
because it is value for money. So that, and was I going to be pushed harder? Like, you know, I don't know. Sometimes you think that the personal trainer's going to be a bit macho.
Yeah.
And
kind of militant, shouting.
Yeah. And it's going to be like with a sergeant major or something.
Yeah.
They're going to push you beyond what you feel like you can handle, and it's really nice to realise that wasn't the case.
Okay, that's interesting. And what was the moment? Because obviously we didn't just work together for 1 or 2 months. We worked together for a period of time, so a good 7 months now. What was the point where you realised, like, do you know what? This has been a good investment. I'm really glad that I've made this commitment. At what point did you kind of come to that realisation that it was a good investment that you were making?
Maybe when my partner said I was looking more buff.
It's nice when you
As
get
I
external
came out of the
validation.
shower, yeah.
It's like that kind of, oh, okay, this is worth it now, yeah.
Yeah, but also, I don't know, the realisation that ever since I've seen you, I've been going to the gym at least every other day, religiously, because it feels like, it's not like you're going to tell me off, but it feels like next time I come, I don't want to say, oh, I haven't done anything. It's just, there's a little voice on your shoulder.
It's like accountability, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't want to feel like you've come into the session with having done, it's almost like going to a class or a lesson. You don't want to feel like you've not done any homework at all. You want to feel like you've at least done something, you've got something to report, otherwise you kind of feel like, why am I here if I'm kind of letting myself down? But having that accountability and having that financial commitment, you're accountable to somebody other than yourself. Because when you're working out on your own or you don't eat the right thing, it's so easy to go, oh, well, it's only myself who's let down. But when you feel like someone's going to sit and kind of, not grill you, but someone's going to sit and ask you to reflect on the last 7 days, and when you think about it, there's very few people in your life that have that much interest in your health and fitness. Someone who's going to sit and talk to you in great depth about things and kind of make you sit and analyse and reflect. Because I think, if we're all honest, a lot of us don't reflect enough on the things that we do, especially when it comes to health and fitness. You know, what's working, what isn't working, what's going well, what am I struggling with, what could I do better, what kind of action plan can I set myself, and then in regards to like setting goals for, you know, the coming week, so that you've got something tangible to kind of refer back to, and then like metrics of tracking, how we've tracked, you know, we've done photos and weight and measurements, because at the end of the day, again, I think we're all guilty of, you know, go to the gym, you eat whatever, there's no actual metrics to see, well, is this having any effect whatsoever? You could either delude yourself into thinking it is working, or you could think that nothing's working, in actual fact you're getting good progression, but because you're not using any metrics to track, you don't know that, you've got nothing to go from, so it's just kind of based on how you feel. So I think a lot of people, like you said, will go to the gym for years and years and go, actually, is it doing anything? Like, am I getting anywhere? And one day you sit down and go, well, actually, I don't think I am getting anywhere. So maybe it's time that I speak to someone. And, you know, it is a big commitment, isn't it? A big financial commitment. It's not, you know, as cheap as coffee, shall we say. But having someone to hold you accountable can be really powerful.
Yeah. And also, then you start to build up, what's the word, like a habit or a routine.
Yeah. Exactly. And it takes a while for habits to ingrain. I mean, see, we spoke about in the beginning, you know, regarding you know, you wanted to lose weight, and we discussed about tracking food. I know it's not always been the easiest, and it can be quite a difficult habit to to remember to do it, and B, to kind of get into how to do it properly. And I know, you know, we had a few challenges in the beginning, like most people, and over time you've become a little bit more fluid with recording your food, and we know it's not a long-term strategy, but it's a really useful tool, at least in the beginning, to kind of give you, like you said, more of an understanding about calories and macronutrients, because we pay a lot of attention to, you know, sugar and fat and all these things the media tells us is bad, we should, but we don't really ever stop and think, well, how many calories is this, and what's the portion of this, and what about the protein content of these foods? They're things that often the media doesn't really necessarily kind of bring to our attention. To have a look at that and see food in a slightly different way can be quite helpful.
So it's awareness, isn't it?
Yeah,
sometimes
definitely.
You see things. I didn't even really kind of understand how to particularly read those calorie things on the labelling.
Yes.
Or you just don't, and then you start to realise, you start to look at it, you start to understand it. That makes a difference.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you just look at calories, as if you pick up, you know, a tuna sandwich that says 350 calories, it's almost like looking at the prices of things, but you're not being given a wage, or you don't know what your wages are going to be, so you have no idea. And this is why I say to people, when people ask what should my portion sizes be, that's a really hard question to answer, because it's in what context. Firstly, what's the goal, and secondly, what is your, if we look at money, you know, is an item expensive? Well, that depends, doesn't it, on your expenses and your income. And calories are no different. It is very much a unit of energy. So it's like, how much energy do we need? How much energy have we used? How much energy do we have remaining that we can fill? And that will, all of those things will determine what decision we make based, you know, with the foods that we choose. But we can't just look at calories in isolation. It has to be within context, the same as money. So, you know, if an item is expensive, well, that depends, doesn't it, on so many different variables. It's not a black and white question, it's subjective to each individual person, and it's like having a better understanding of that. But just knowing, you know, what your calorie target should be, and then keeping a track of your calories throughout the day can be quite a helpful task. So.
Also, none of your sessions are ever the same, and that's in a good way. I always feel like you're taking stock of if I've got any injuries or any aches or pains, and how we can kind of exercise those, but also these different ways of doing the same thing that keeps it interesting and varied.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Some people, I think a lot of people who've not worked with personal training don't realise that that is the personal element. And I think having, like, for me, it's like having a duty of care for client. It's like each time you walk in, what version of you am I presenting with? Today you've come in with, you know, like a flu and a cold and you're chesty. So clearly you're not in top form. We're not going to go out and get you to do any body weight, you know, sled pushes like we usually would, and really push you to the max, because you're obviously, your fuel tank, shall we say, is quite low today. So it wouldn't make sense to try and, you know, run your car on full, you know, full gas when you haven't got enough fuel in the tank for it. So it makes sense to adapt it. And as you said, if you come in with a niggle or a strain, then it's really so like your elbow's hurting, let's go and hammer your elbow with some biceps and some triceps. It's silly, really, isn't it? It's like, well, okay, with the elbow's hurting, so how can we work around it and get you a great workout? But it's about just adapting session on session depending on how you're feeling and how your body is. So yeah, definitely.
And then obviously there's the other thing about becoming familiar with the gym itself and why those machines do what those machines do. And also I had this thing about, I never really understood what the difference was between using free weights and machines, for example, and what the benefits or lack of benefits of each of them are, and how you can use them in different ways. So once you understand the gym and how it works and the different things you can do with the machines, then you become confident about using the gym as well, which I think is a benefit.
Definitely, and I would put money on it. Probably 90% of people go to the gym probably have a very vague understanding of the gym, and maybe, you know a few exercises, but like you said, even just something like when and where to use cables versus free weights, and what's the advantages and disadvantages, because they're all tools in the toolkit, but knowing like why we would use one over the other in X, Y, and Z. And I think just giving you like a vague overview of like a program and a structure and why it's put together in a specific way and why we do certain things can make you feel a little bit more empowered, and you're like, I can make better choices now because I can understand things a little bit more. So yeah,
so I didn't think that you would have such a knowledge of kind of muscle groupings and kind of how the body works and all that stuff, so that's really interesting. Can you explain it very well as well?
I think a lot of people think that a personal trainer just sits there with a pen and paper and goes, oh, this exercise would be good, or maybe this one, but there's probably don't really understand the rationale behind why they've been put in there and what they're for and why we do things in a certain way. I think people just think we just kind of pop up with some random ideas and we just scribble it on a piece of paper.
And you're just going through a sort of routine that never changes without necessarily any kind of explanation or understanding around it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't do that?
Yeah, exactly, I agree. Okay, awesome, thank you. Hopefully you can hear that.
If I were you, I'd check the sound, see if it's
any good.